Wow, thank you, Denise. Let me pull up there we go. You can give me a thumbs up. I think you should be seeing my opening. And so
I don't see it yet, Lorie.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Oops, it's there. Never mind.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm seeing it. So, wow, welcome to Effectively Responding to Complaining Coworkers. Most of us complain about work, well, because it's work. We are all guilty at some point, and there are times when it's important to allow people and to give them space to vent and verbalize their frustration. For an employee to hear that a client just canceled a project that you've been working on for 2 weeks because their finance department declared bankruptcy makes it understandable, even justifiable, when you hear an employee shout, "This job sucks." Venting may serve as an avenue for releasing negative energy, getting something off of one's chest. And quickly voicing negative thoughts can really keep us at times from losing it. Once our negative emotions and frustrations are released, we can move forward without built up emotion. Blowing off steam is reasonable at certain times, as long as we can blow it and release it. It's similar to releasing the pressure of a shaken pop can, therefore preventing a messy explosion. There are times when complaints are legitimate. A weak delay in informing an employee, well, that a project has been canceled, well, that's a legitimate complaint and a costly concern for the employee's time and the organization's expense and even productivity. A complaint like this needs to be researched and explored, thereby preventing lack of communication, wasted time moving forward. When people, though, cross the line from venting and verbalizing legitimate concerns and complaints and are instead stuck in a repeat cycle of chronic complaining, well, you have then a chronic complainer. You see, a chronic complainer complains repeatedly, voicing complaints that he or she is unwilling to communicate to the people that they work with in order to solve them. That's because oftentimes complainers see other people completely at fault and claim that they have no power to influence change. Well, if you work with someone like this and you silently endure, you, along with your team members and your company culture, will be held hostage, a prisoner in a negativity cell. And to get out of this hostage situation, so you can protect your time, preserve your mental and emotional well-being, as well as to promote a positive workplace culture, then this behavior needs to be effectively and respectfully addressed, not tolerated. Yet all too often in my work supporting organizations, I've noticed that what keeps people stuck are these difficult conversations that they are either avoiding because they are afraid to say something because they fear it might make the situation worse, or else they don't have the skill. They're holding these conversations, and because they're not trained, they are not holding them well. So would you do this? Would you go to your chat box And would you share some examples with me? And if you notice that your microphone is not muted, please mute that so we can have better quality sound in our recording. So mute and go to your chat box. I would love to hear some examples of negativity and complaints that you've encountered. I recently had a question from someone saying, what do you do when your boss complains about other coworkers to you? Oh my gosh, that's an awkward situation to be put in. And at that point, I suggested to this person that they communicate that they want to see their boss successful and that they are concerned that when people hear or suspect they are talking about other people to someone else instead of the person, that could limit their success and limit their ability to have employees trust them and feel that they can confide in them. So I would love to hear your examples. I'm opening up the chat box and
Let me rattle them off to you because we have a couple of
thank you.
conversations that are going on. Why do I have to return to my office and can't work from home? Complain, complain, complain. I want to work from home. I understand that one. Another one is complaining about clients who are asking for things that are entirely logical for the clients to be asking for.
Yeah, and in that case, it's complaining about what is their job.
Yeah.
You know, the expectations, what somebody is being paid to do.
Yeah, here's another one. Why is my supervisor always mean to me?
Wow. Okay. And at that point, how do we sit down and have a conversation about what a reasonable request and moving it to what your manager is asking you to do? If you would do that, will the team be more successful? Will you be more successful? And is this a fair request? If somebody else were in your position, would that be a fair request for you to have?
We have one more that I think is really important to say. Complaining about other departments or teams and not wanting to do the follow-up with them because it's their job to get done and they weren't getting it done.
Okay, so culture of accountability, I call, and I think we've I think, Denise, we've done some past work on that, and that's an ongoing topic and worth even looking towards in the future. So how do we build a culture of accountability? And I have heard it said that the worst teams, no one holds anyone accountable. Good teams, a manager will hold people accountable, but on the best teams, everyone holds accountability conversations with everyone. Coworkers with coworkers, managers with coworkers, as well as coworkers with managers. So how do we establish that a norm? And in order to do that, how do we give people the skill and ability to have those conversations? Because expecting people to have those conversations, well, people don't arise to their expectations. They fall to the level of their training. So thank you, those of you who have participated. Great examples. Appreciate that. So today, what I will do is demonstrate a communication framework and demonstrate implementing it in effectively addressing challenging workplace behaviors, specifically complaining coworkers. And I'll give an example of how to have a friendly request with a coworker asking them to refrain from complaining. And I'll end with an accountability conversation where a manager addresses complaining as a performance concern. So you're going to see a range of those, and but implementing a framework and specific components that work for any of these kind of conversations, because we all know there are different levels of complaining. Sophie, who you will see on my right, is going to open up with a friendly request for a coworker named Olivia, who is on her left, in order a friendly request to refrain from complaining. Now, here is the framework that she's going to use. She's done some training and coaching with me. She knows to open up a conversation, make a difficult conversation into a safe one by opening up with positive wants. And in doing that, she is going to communicate what she wants for the other person, Olivia, for her success, for improved success. And this is what she wants for her, not from her. That will come later. The from meaning to refrain from complaining. So you can always open up with positive wants first for the person, the other person, and you can also include yourself, what you want for the relationship, working relationship between you and the team. In opening up with positive wants, the research shows that you increase your likelihood of a positive outcome by 97%. So a few seconds that it takes, open up with positive wants, then move to identifying the behavior, specifically listing what the person is doing, in this case, the complaining, or not doing in regards to like a performance gap. And best to open it up with an I message, because opening up with that "you need to stop" can come across as really an attack, accusatory. It raises defensiveness. So opening up with an I message, you can make the concern known still, but it's less defensive. And then talk about the impact. Identify the impact of this person's actions upon you, maybe the culture, the team. In this case, she's going to talk about the impact of complaining. And because this is a friendly request, she will end it with a suggestion moving forward. Here's what you want from the person, specific behavior you want from this person moving forward. So let's take a look and let's listen in. Positive wants. Olivia, I'd like you to experience success in your work, in building positive working relationships, and in navigating successfully daily work challenges. When I hear you voice your frustration a number of times, well, I'm concerned that you may be getting stuck in negativity and also bringing negativity into the workplace environment. Moving forward, I suggest that you decide what concerns need to be addressed and respectfully address them with the people involved. On the other hand, those challenges that you encounter that are just part of a job, for example, clients asking you to do reasonable things, well, remember that this is what you get paid to tackle. So I'd appreciate not hearing negative comments about them. Okay, so their friendly request, and this is especially when it's not a repeated behavior, you've noticed it, and you want to nip it. So first, let's say, for example, this would be first time dealing with a concern of complaining. Now, when there is somebody complaining to you about someone else, well, that's awkward because it's called triangulation. Person A complains to B about person C, and really person A needs to go directly to C. If you're complaining to someone else about somebody else, well, that's not, that creates a negative workplace culture, and it also traps people in between. So Barry, on your right, will address his concern with Matt, who is on the left, regarding Matt's complaining about a fellow coworker. And watch how he steps up to this conversation. He will open up again with the positive wants, with identifying the issue and the impact. But he will also do something that you see in the center. He is going to acknowledge Matt's concern. And in doing that, he's going to summarize the concern so that Matt knows he's heard his concern. But he is also going to get an agreement from Matt moving forward. And that will be to go talk to this other person, not put him in the middle. Okay, watch how he does this. Here is Matt voicing his concern to Greg. Matt's concern about Greg, and he's voicing it to Barry. Okay. Greg is always giving me the cold shoulder. I see him saying hi and checking in with other team members, but he walks by me without saying a word. It's like I'm Mr. Invisible and not worth noticing. Barry's response. Watch how he acknowledges. Matt, it sounds like you feel ignored by Greg and that you'd like to have a more positive and regular interactions. Here he's modeling what it would be most appropriate for Matt to say to Greg. Matt, I want you and every person here to build positive working relationships. When I hear you voice concerns about being ignored by Greg, well, it puts me in the middle of an awkward situation and a conversation that I believe you need to have directly with Greg. Personally, if you had concerns about me, I'd want you to come directly to me with your concerns. Okay. May I count on you to have a conversation with Greg? Notice how he moves it to accountability. And one thing he might add in is, do you need support in planning how to hold this conversation? So here he says, I will be willing to help you in getting prepared for this conversation, but I won't be listening to you complain about somebody else. Now, before I move into the next example, where we move to more of a chronic complaining, what I'd like to do, I am going to open up my chat box and I'm going to give you a chance if you would like to make some comments about, we've had a friendly reminder, but then we've also had moving someone to accountability and not instead of complaining about someone, go and voicing your concern to that person. So let me give my voice a break and let me see if you have something you'd like to say, some kind of engagement. Was there an example here that I showed that you would be comfortable using and what you yourself want to implement? So go to the chat box and I'll give you a moment.
Lorie, while people are coming up with some thoughts, one thought came to my mind that I thought, okay, well, let's just voice it out loud. What if what they're complaining about is something that is valid, that requires the direct supervisor conversation with the individual because it's harmful to others or to the organization?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then it would be, we need to, it's the difference between complaining and a legitimate concern. Mm-hmm. And Denise, one thing that people might want to do is go back to, I believe we did a webinar on, it was blame, building a culture of accountability, not blame. Mm-hmm. And also we did one on not excuses. And it talked about really the difference between blaming, complaining, and identifying legitimate concerns and things that are valuable. And so then what we need to do is move to exploring those. And
Wonderful.
so then what we would do is, let's look at the problem. Let's look at what is contributing to the problem. What am I doing? What are you doing? What are others doing? What is the process doing? And then it becomes more of a discussion about the problem and what do we need to do moving forward.
We have a couple of really good comments that are in the chat box. Let me read them to you. First one, how do you have this type of a conversation with someone who tends to raise their voice and get aggressive?
Okay. That needs to be the conversation. So you step out of the complaining and say, I have just noticed that your volume of your voice has raised and people tend to become silent. They feel unsafe. And so I'm asking you to please lower the volume. And if we need to just take a little decompression time to do that, then that's okay. I'll honor that need. So letting the person know, sometimes it's easy for people to get defensive and into fight mode. And so making an awareness to that. Also, sometimes just taking a little recess can be a good diffuser. Good question.
We have another really good question, is asking the person who's doing, that's coming to you with this complaint, asking what is blocking you from asking the person directly why that he's not speaking to you? What's blocking you?
Okay, brilliant question. And a good way to open that up is, I'm curious, can you help me understand why you are not having this conversation with the other person? And so I've heard it said that curiosity did not kill the cat, but it caused it to earn the Nobel Peace Prize. So that is absolute brilliant suggestion. Asking a question, being curious, can make things safe, and it can help you get to core issues. And hopefully, as like when Barry was saying, do you need support in planning how to hold this conversation? Or is there, he could have also said, is there a challenge that you're facing in bringing this up with this person? Help me understand. So brilliant. Thank you. I think that was Teresa.
Yeah.
That.
I have a private request to me. What if we want to help the complaining coworker because they have reason to complain, but in doing so will be like opening Pandora's box that we just don't have the time for?
Well, the reality is that they will be ongoing problems. So while we think we're saving time, it can also be a pop can shaken. And it affects culture. So who knows what it is costing us by not addressing the issues. So when I step in and at times do mediation or come into groups and we notice that there are a number of issues, what I ask people to do is make a list. And what I do then is ask them, okay, on your list, what 3 items, if you would address any 3 of these, which 3 would make the most significant improvement in your job and the culture? So we narrow it down to those, and then it's the number 1. And so, and I have found that quite often when you start to deal with the core ones, the other ones will begin to drop off. And not only that, as you're working through those, people are getting the skill to be able to address the others. So I know that time is a concern, And I know sometimes we can only deal with so many issues at a time to get to the root of it. But what we don't deal with, it's going to erupt, cause problems. And sometimes we lose we lose the wrong people. So it's the people with another work offer in their back pocket that we tend to lose. And then sometimes we keep problems. So good question. Select which ones will have the most positive impact and resolve the most negative impact, and begin working through those. Also, when we give people the skill to talk about these things, then people are able to begin to do this, hopefully independently. Or else then if they find themselves going to HR has a framework for helping them talk and resolve these.
We have one last comment, is that I will often ask them to provide possible solutions to their complaints, then break down those into what is or is not feasible.
Oh, great idea. Talk about a filter. And when you do that, what you're doing is looking at what is complaints in just complaining about the realities of work versus what are we enduring complaining about that we are not stepping up in order to find solutions. So great way of filtering that. Okay, wow, I am so glad I stopped to get some breaks and to get some feedback and engagement. So thank you, everyone. What you've done is enriched our time together. Boy, when we start pooling different people and their strategies, we leave with so many helpful tools. So thank you. Let's now move to a safe conversation. And this is where Sophie will address chronic complaining. And here you will see that she is doing a number of things. Positive wants, identify behavior, the impact, all of those you're familiar with. Here she will also invite a conversation and ask some questions. And I think in doing so, getting to Olivia, getting her to talk about this negativity, these problems, and understanding. So again, a suggestion that somebody voiced via the chat box. Now, in regards to, she will get an agreement moving forward, but because this is going to be about, and moving into talk, this is a performance concern. What she is going to do is include what if after we get an agreement, I get your agreement moving forward, if it continues, then this will become, we will be talking about this as a performance concern, and this can be seen on a performance review. So let's see how she engages and addresses, this is really chronic complaining, a performance concern. Again, positive wants. Olivia, I'd like you to experience success in your work, in building positive relationships, and in navigating daily work challenges. Same as she opened up before. Hearing you voice a frustration, here we've got a number of times, it's a pattern, it's not a first time, is frustrating for me. I believe repeatedly hearing negative comments creates a negative workplace culture impact. Negativity is contagious. In addition, I'm concerned that you have become stuck in a negativity loops that keeps you ruminating on problems instead of solutions. Is there something you'd like me to know that would help me understand the comments and negativity? And here you can get some engagement. Now, based upon those, what is shared, then you can decide if it's time to do which ones are legitimate. But in the case of ones that are just part of the job, those need to be addressed. And here's how moving forward. I want you to recognize that some challenges are just part of the job, what you get paid to tackle. And she can list some of those examples. Moving forward, I want you to refrain from verbalizing negative comments about them. Now, these are the ones that are inevitable. In regards to the others, when you have work challenges that need to be addressed with coworkers, I want you to respectfully voice your concerns directly with the people with whom you have your concern. Now, I am considering that they have given a framework and that they've modeled this, and this is a fair expectation. Here is her asking for the agreement. Olivia, may I get your agreement to refrain from verbalizing negative comments, along with an agreement to address your concerns directly to the people with whom you have the concern. Once you get that agreement, talk about, I'm counting on you to keep your commitment to build a positive workplace culture. So you're trusting this person moving forward. Yet, if negativity continues, this will be addressed in your upcoming performance review. And at this point, being specific about what are the expectations within the work description, in the attitude. So each organization may have specific, being a team player, and just leadership in problem solving. So with that, what I want to do, though, before I close and open it up to Q&A, I want you to know that sometimes a friendly request is enough. And a person becomes aware and intentionally changes the behavior, and it may stop. While this is possible, more commonly, there are times where people have developed patterns and habits, and you may need to have a series of conversations and be ready if situations escalate, because a first-time conversation about a concern needs to sound different when there is a pattern and when it's moved to a performance concern. So I want you to know that safe conversations are learnable. The framework can be learned with coaching, with practicing. You can learn to respond instinctively after you practiced. And once this skill is learned and developed, you can elevate your leadership to the next level by implementing a communication framework that transforms you. And I've heard it said that 70% of managers stay bosses and never become leaders because they lack the communication leadership to address those awkward, challenging behaviors, but also they lack the skill to looking at legitimate complaints and concerns and working through those to bring about needed change. So training and coaching and implementing my framework resonates with you, well, then I'd love to set aside 30 minutes to have some one-on-one time with you. And if you will go to my website at www.conversationsintheworkplace.com, you will be taken to my homepage. You will see this picture. Below the picture is a Let's Talk button. And if you click on the Let's Talk button, you will go to a place where you can sign up for a complimentary 30-minute consultation with me. Pick a day and time that works for you, and that time will be reserved on my calendar. So in closing, before we do open up to our Q&A, I want you to know that it is possible to transform difficult conversations about complaining and around other concerns into safe conversations. And this occurs one safe conversation at a time. So with that, let's move into a Q&A.
All right, I'm going to stop your sharing so that we can be on the screen here together. I had something that happened literally about an hour ago that I thought, well, this will be really good for me to bring up with you. And because it's along the lines of complaining coworkers. But in this particular case, it was a video that was sent to me, a TikTok video that somebody sent to me because they thought I'd get a kick out of it. It was hilarious type of a thing. And it was somebody who was an employee of a company not wearing the dress uniform that it's a retail store, a big box store. They all have a certain uniform that they wear. So he was not wearing the uniform, but he did have the ID badge that everybody wears. And the name of the business is on the ID badge, and bashing the customers. And so he's complaining publicly, airing his grievances publicly, and in representing his company name. So I'm just curious because this falls into the area of a complaining coworker, and I really apologize about my barking dog, guys. This is life and working.
It's COVID.
Yep. She had to give her 2 cents worth. Anyways, what would you have to say if somebody were to come to you? I mean, we've got the blame and all those other things that we talked about, but I mean, this is a complaining coworker. How would you have a conversation with that particular employee?
Well, and you have 2 issues to address. You have the uniform, and this is a performance concern. And so you have that. You talk about, I want you to be successful here. I want you to be able to represent the company, and to also, then you move into, it's an expectation here that you wear this type of clothing in addition to the badge. And it's not okay to choose which items you want to wear and not wear. And so then talking about if this would be non-compliance, this is expected in this job. Can I count on you moving forward to wear the appropriate dress apparel? You get a commitment from them. If not, this will be a reason for termination. So that would be first dealing with that. Then, and I'm not saying that one has to be before the other.
Although my argument would be, so it's okay for me to continue doing the videos as long as I wear the shirt too.
Do the videos
did a TikTok video wearing part of the uniform, obviously doing it from home, but wanted to share with people where it works.
Okay. Thank you, Denise. What I was putting together in my mind is this was an employee who wasn't meeting the dress code, but this is not a work situation. Okay.
It's not a work situation.
On public. This is on public media. Okay, so this is 2 things, and this is about anytime a person talks about a company and wears something that represents the company, they are seen as a representative. And so at this point, what this person has done is spoken negatively. This is about PR and this is management. If this person has concerns, it's an expectation that they go and they voice their concern to the people that they report to. But this is a breach of respectful professional behavior. And this is, then you talk about this is grounds for termination.
Yeah.
So thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
And see, and here is why it is so, sometimes how I was interpreting that. I was interpreting this person at work and being videoed. I hadn't understood that this person was on their own on social media ranting negatively about a company.
About their own company that they supposedly work with. Yeah, it goes into that passive aggressive behavior that sometimes when we're complaining, we're not going to complain at the workplace. We'll stuff it down. But then we go out on social media and we tell everyone what lousy customers that we have, and they're all rude and they're all terrible. And yet we're still representing the company because we're wearing part of the uniform and obviously saying these are our customers that we don't like.
Yeah, and I had read an article about someone who was biking to work and had their work t-shirt on or some kind of that represented the company, and they made a rude gesture. It was on social media or in the paper, and they lost their job. It was because when you wear that clothing, you are representing the company and people associate it. Yeah. So there is not, be careful when you're in public, your company, you've made your company public and you're representing them.
Absolutely. So I don't want to hijack this whole thing. I just went in with this line of, because we really didn't talk about passive aggressive behavior. Let's open it up to anyone who has a question. Feel free to put it in the chat box. You can private message it to me and I will ask it on your behalf if you wish, or you can unmute yourself and you have an opportunity to ask questions directly of Lorie. So this is a great opportunity for you.
Absolutely. That was a great question. And in the age of social media, wow. I think too, we need to be careful for people difficult conversations, performance conversations need to be face-to-face or screen-to-screen, and they're person-to-person. And we don't text, we don't email. All of those things can be, they're just not appropriate. And quite often they can be, it ends up in mouse-to-mouse combat, and HR has a string then of HR infractions. And I've mediated in court, and the judge has asked for the cell phone and the text messages. They've been printed out, and that has been evidence of harassment. So we got to be careful.
We have a good comment that's made here in the chat box is make sure that you document any of these conversations that you have.
And that's why you also in the conversation with an agreement moving forward. Because when something happens again, the first time you talk about something, you talk about the behavior, the content, what they did. When it happens again, it's about a broken commitment. And I cannot trust you in keeping your commitments. It's escalated and it's a different type of conversation. Right. The request versus the accountability conversation.
I want to move at this point in time to ending the recording so that those who are here live do not have to have fear of having their questions that they ask be for all to share. But before I end the recording, I want to thank everybody for watching and being a part of this. And don't forget to go to the Unifying Wellness website. Under the YDW recorded, you will find all of the conversations that we've had with Lorie that are, it's a wonderful library to access, not just for that, but for all the topics that we have in there as well. So thank you for being with us today.